Kitty. Inga went to the window and looked at the moon. Her heart was pounding, and tangled hair was stuck to the back of her neck, wet with sweat. For several nights in a row, the girl dreamed of a dead kitten lying in a trash can. For some reason, this dream caused Inga the wildest feeling of fear and panic, but she did not understand what this could be connected with. To cope with the night obsession, the girl went for a walk outside. It always helped her. When Inga returned home, she took a knife and made herself a small but deep cut on her shoulder, where there were already about 15 similar scars. Realizing that she would not be able to sleep that night, the girl drank coffee and began to get ready for the road. The other day, her older brother's wedding was to take place, and she had to go to her hometown to her mother. Inga always had a difficult relationship with her. The girl felt superfluous from childhood. Neither the success of her daughter in her studies, nor the admission to the budget from the capital's university and her graduation with honors have ever interested a woman. All maternal love went to the older brother. We need to look for pluses everywhere. I'll leave earlier, even though there will be no traffic jams, Inga thought and started the car. A few hours later, the girl was already standing on the threshold of her mother's apartment. Hi dear. We were expecting you for dinner. I'm so glad to see you, Lydia hugged her daughter. All my rooms are occupied by guests. I didn't expect so many people to come. Will you settle down in Baba Nayura's apartment for now? I'll run later, okay. Here it is, a warm home meeting, Inga quipped to herself, who had not seen her mother for almost 2 years. Well, at least I didn't send it to the hotel. Quote. Inga took the keys from her mother and went up to the floor above. Baba Nayura bequeathed her apartment to Lydia in exchange for her taking care of her before her death. It was a very difficult time, perestroika, and the elderly woman had no relatives left at all. After the death of Baba Nayura, Lydia rented an apartment and lived on this money, allowing herself to quit her job. Inga herself did not remember her neighbor well, but according to the stories of her mother, Baba Nayura was still a bloodsucker. Having entered the apartment of Baba Nayura, Inga, not getting enough sleep and tired from the road, threw her bag with things in the hallway and collapsed on the sofa to rest. The girl woke up from the fact that the cat began to crowd to her side and purr loudly. Inga pushed the animal away with her hand and turned on the other side, and then abruptly opened her eyes. Where is the cat from? Did you forget to close the door? Inga quickly jumped up from the sofa and began to look around. Having walked around the apartment several times, the girl did not find anything suspicious. The front door was closed. The cat was nowhere to be found either. Deciding that it seemed to her, the girl shook off the remnants of sleep and went to wash. But when Inga returned to the room again, she saw a black kitten sitting in the center of the carpet in the large room. The animal stared at the girl. So who scared me? Oh, you villain, Inga smiled and already wanted to take the baby in her arms, when he suddenly grabbed her hand with his teeth and claws. From surprise and sharp pain, Inga screamed and began to quickly shake her hand, trying to throw the cat off her. When she finally succeeded, the cat that landed on the floor bristled and hissed, and then disappeared behind the sofa. What a creature! Inga got angry, examining the crippled hand. Now I'll treat the wound and get to you. The cuts from the cat's claws were very deep, despite the cat's size. Several scratches oozed blood. Inga ran out of Baba Nayura's apartment and hurried to her mother. Mother, why didn't you say that a wolfhound was waiting for me there? What wolfhound? Lydia didn't understand. Who tore my whole arm into the blood? Inga shook her wounded hand in front of her mother's face. Only now did she realize that the scratches had suddenly disappeared. There were no signs of injury on the recently bleeding arm. Together with her mother, Inga once again went around the apartment of Baba Naira, but they did not find any traces of the animal. According to Lydia, no one has lived in Baba Naira's apartment for several months. The last tenants also did not keep any animals. I want to give this apartment to your brother for the wedding, Lydia said, as if by the way. How unexpected, Inga chuckled to herself. Only I wrote it down on you then, the mother continued. For what? Oh, there are these legal subtleties. I was told it would be better. Do you want me to sign the papers? Inga guessed. Yes. I'll bring them to you tonight. You still live in Moscow, and Lenka has a pregnant bride. Young people need separate housing. Will you sign? I'll sign it, you mind this apartment with blood and then. She is yours, Inga agreed. On the eve of her brother's wedding, Inga again dreamed of a dead kitten. Only now the dream began with how the girl enters the kitchen in Baba Naira's apartment, and a young woman is standing next to the stove. Inga's mother. A black kitten spun under Lydia's feet. At some point, the woman nearly stepped on the animal and almost lost her balance. Lydia took the cat in her hands with a calm look and, breaking its neck with a crunch, threw it into the trash can, after which she again continued to chop the beets for borscht. Lida, little Inga goggled her eyes. Lydia shuddered and turned sharply at the sound. She obviously didn't expect to see anyone here. The woman's eyes exuded cold and were full of malice. Inga was again overwhelmed by a wave of all-consuming fear and panic, and she woke up. The girl was shivering. The sheet and pillow were wet. Before Inga's eyes, her mother's face twisted with anger still stood. Finally waking up, the girl went to breathe on the balcony to freshen up, but again came across a black kitten. He sat in the corridor and seemed to be waiting for Inga. The cat's eyes shone with an unnatural blue light in the dark corridor. Seeing the girl, the kitten meowed and went to a large room. Approaching the entrance to the balcony, the animal began to scrape with its claws on the parquet, trying to dig something out, and then disappeared into the air. Inga rubbed her eyes. Right in front of her just dissolved, a ghost. Hallucination. What was it anyway? Only now it began to dawn on Inga that the kitten she saw now and the kitten from her dream were like two drops of water. They sailed. I went crazy, what a shame, Inga recalled a phrase from a famous film. These words accurately described the current state of the girl. Suddenly, Inga noticed that several parquet boards in the place where the ghostly cat was scratching were located a little higher than the rest, only a couple of millimeters. The girl tried to lift the boards, but they sat firmly. Then Inga brought a knife from the kitchen and tried again. This time the boards succumbed. Under them was found a small plastic bag, carefully wrapped in a velvet cloth. The package contained documents and photographs. In one of the photos, Inga recognized herself as still quite small. According to the documents, it turned out that Baba Naira was Inga's own grandmother, and Lydia became the guardian of her granddaughter after her grandmother's death. Baba Naira's apartment was also recorded on Inga. Seeing Baba Naira in one of the photographs, forgotten memories flooded the girl. How, right in front of little Inga, Lydia ruthlessly dealt with the kitten, how the girl immediately ran to her grandmother in tears and told everything. Baba Naira was horrified by such an act by Lida, and they had a fight. The elderly woman screamed that she would never leave her granddaughter in the care of a madwoman. Lida said that she was tired of cleaning up after a vile animal that crap all over the apartment. The women quarreled, and when Baba Naira said that she no longer wanted to see Lydia and would find another guardian for her granddaughter, she grabbed a flower pot from the windowsill and smashed it on the old woman's head. Right before the eyes of her granddaughter, who huddled under the table from fear, Baba Naira collapsed unconscious on the floor. Realizing what she had done, Lita began to rush around the apartment, not knowing what to do next. When Lita returned to the kitchen, she opened the window and, with an effort, heaved the body of the old woman, who had already begun to recover, onto the windowsill, pushed Baba Naira out of the window of the 8th floor. And then she arranged everything as if the elderly woman decided to wash the windows and fell out by accident. After that, she roughly dragged Inga out from under the table and hissed, "If you tell anyone about this, I will do the same to you." Understood. Inga couldn't believe it. Could it be that, in order to cope with the shock, her child's brain simply blocked the terrible memories? There was a knock on the door. Lydia came for the documents to the apartment. "Open," shouted Inga, standing behind closet so that it was not visible, and clutching a knife in his hands. Signed, Lydia started from the threshold, passing by the closet. "It is important." Inga abruptly jumped out of her hiding place and put a knife to the woman's throat. "Inga, what are you?" Lydia was frightened. But Inga did not listen to her. She violently twisted Lydia's arm and, without removing the knife, led the woman to the kitchen, and then seated her at the table, where a sheet of paper and a pen prepared in advance were already waiting for her. "Write." "What to write?" "Inga, I don't. A suicide note. But, I know everything. About Grandma. Now you will write what you did, and then you will atone for your guilt." There were absolutely no emotions in Inga's voice, and the knife blade cut more and more into the victim's throat. Finally, begging for mercy, Lydia finished writing and Inga led her to the window. The woman tried to resist, but the killer's actions were perfected to the smallest detail and did not give a single chance to the victim to save. "I raised you. You should be grateful to me. My son and I had nothing to live on. I needed money from renting an apartment. You will not do this. You are incapable of killing," cried Lydia, frightened. "I should have been more interested in my life," Inga snapped dryly, and then kicked Lydia out the window and immediately sat down so that no one could notice her. After that, the girl made herself another deep cut on her shoulder with a knife, which will soon turn into a scar, like the previous ones. A kitten entered the kitchen, meowing. Inga gently patted him on the head. The kitten no longer scratched the girl. "Well, we need to hurry up so as not to be late for the ceremony, baby," Inga said, and, putting a folding knife in a small clutch, she left the apartment.